these 2028 videos are getting real fun to make. It's really nice to look at an election several years in advance and just speculate on it. Now, I was one of the people who, up until the last few months, thought Kristi Noem was going to be Trump's running mate in 2024, and from then on, whether Trump won or lost, she would be his heir apparent, to lead the MAGA movement into the future. But after the revelations about her and her goofy memoir, No Going Back, it seems that I'll have to eat my words and accept that I didn't know what I was talking about. um, but one of my commentators posed a question of, do I think Noam will run for president in 2028? And I said, it's a lot more believable than one would guess, because if I'm looking at this from her perspective, the general rule about political scandals is that after the first couple of months, maybe years, people don't really talk about them anymore. And so she might be thinking that, here's this stupid thing I wrote in a book several years back. Nobody's going to be bringing this up years later, even though I think they will. And she also has no path forward politically after being governor of South Dakota, because she can't run for senator thanks to John Thune sitting on his seat and the other person sitting on theirs. There's just no more trajectory for her in her home state, which I think she's still mostly popular in. So even if she were to just say forget it, they would still be okay with her running for office. But at this point, the whole state is red, and it's going from person to person, and she's already held the top positions that are going to be foreseeable as available for the next couple of years. But what's really crazy is that I was wondering how a primary with her would play out, because I said before, Republicans are not going to nominate a woman, but I do think if she were to run, she could probably get a couple of votes. Because when I did the Katie Britt video, I was talking about how a lot of these Republicans are trying to go as conservative as possible, right? So South Dakota is known for having this really hardline position on abortion that's not really in line with what a lot of other people would expect from a nation where most people support women having the right to do it. But the more I thought about it, I said, honestly, it's not surprising that someone who would take these really right-wing positions on issues like that would say, yeah, I can still run for president after bragging about, or rather recounting how I murdered my dog, my baby dog. Yeah, okay. And I said before, what I find so frustrating about the dog story, and I've said this, I'm not a dog person. I'm not someone who's the most puppy crazed in terms of just, I like dogs, I like cats, I like most animals, except for spiders, but I digress. But even as someone who just heard that story, I was, disgusted by it, but I also was saddened by the fact that it meant Noam was getting the criticism and the condemnation that she deserved, but over something that completely obfuscated from her actual positions as a politician. I mean, again, whether it was avoiding having a mask mandate in her state, which led to multiple deaths, or going along with the big lie of the 2020 election being stolen with no proof, or getting rid of the concealed carry law in her state, one of the few gun laws they had over there, just scrapping it. This is an extremely right-wing politician who was able to get away with governing like a maniac, with seemingly no reprisal year after year, and she was on her way to the top of her party, and again, not by virtue of doing something amazing or causing some great change with regard to her state, but simply just parroting Trump's positions, right? Just trying to copy and emulate him. And it all came crashing down when she puts some goofy and really crazy revelations about herself in the book. And to this day, I hope that anyone who wants to run for office, or scratch to anyone who runs for office and wins and like starts getting convinced that they're untouchable, don't put don't willingly disclose the fact that you killed your dog. Now, Noem decided that it would be a good idea to go and do these interviews. Now, I'm working on my Kristi Noem cringe compilation, but she put up these interviews. She was in these interviews where she was saying, in South Dakota, they've taken this story and they've used it to me against me in the past. So I thought I was just putting it out there. But I still, after all these months, have yet to see one shred of proof that this story about her killing the goat and then the dog was public knowledge. I've yet to see a single source from back then, article from back then, that states, yes, Governor Noem received, or Congresswoman Noem, or candidate Kristi Noem has been found out to be a dog killer. I don't think that she, I think she's lying with them. I think she got caught admitting something that she most certainly should have kept to herself, and it backfired, and she tried to look for a way to make it seem like it wasn't something that she had revealed to make herself look less crazy for revealing it. But it's going to be really interesting seeing that 2028 primary, and I think she has a shot of winning at least a few states, because it's going to turn into this thing of, do we care more about her positions or her being a dog killer? And I think the Republican voter base, even if a lot of them love animals, just like a lot of the Democrats love animals, the biggest issue for them, personally, I think what's going to happen is somebody like DeSantis or, whoever is going to show up, and they'll be able to siphon off whatever support she had, and she'll drop out before Iowa. She'll pull a Michelle Bachmann. You get a little bit of attention in some polls when you first announce, but then month after month just crash and burn. I think that's what she'll have happen to her in all likelihood. But presuming that she's able to stick around for the first few primaries, I can see her at least winning her home state. And of course, if she drops out, she'll endorse whoever the Republican is. And like I said, this campaign of hers is not going to be like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Katie Britt or, hell, even Carrie Lake. Actually, I take that back. With Noem, she's going to go into that primary. And it's funny because I had the video where she was talking about, why run if you can't win. She's going to go into that primary knowing that there's like a 99% chance that she has no shot of being the Republican nominee, let alone winning a general election. But she's going to do it because she has nowhere else to go. She has no further mountain climbing. The best she can hope for outside of running for president is getting a TV gig on Fox, which is something she would probably get after a failed presidential campaign like so many of the other ones do, or a cabinet position. And it'll probably be some, they won't have her as no Secretary of State or Treasury Secretary or even like UN Ambassador. She'll probably be like Agriculture Secretary. Just something really, not one of like the big cabinet positions, the ones that are all over the place in terms of people just talking about it and saying it's important. But her running for president is something that I think has a very good chance of happening. It's really going to be the last hurrah for Noem, where it's like, here's this lady that kept climbing up the ladder. She strapped herself to Trump, and then she destroyed herself with this stupid dog story that made her look like a heartless monster, even though she was already a heartless monster from the positions that she had. And after failing to win in 2028, we'll see the end of her career. She'll go all the way of Rick Santorum and Mike Huckabee and all the rest of them, where they had that mountain climbing. They aimed to be president. They failed spectacularly. Didn't even get the nomination, and then they're gone. So she'll be a real fun person to watch implode. But like I said, it's really sad that we incentivize people to run for these offices who have no actual policy ideas. Like, Noem is not at this point well known because she's this fierce fighter for freedoms. No, it's you're the lady that takes all these right wing positions to appeal to the Republican Party, and you stupidly destroyed all your appeal to them with your own book.